This video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Stay tuned for how you can get 4 extra months free through Staged Right. Last year, I reviewed Wicked Part 1 on this channel, discussing the divisive decision of splitting the musical into 2 films, and what we might look forward to with the concluding installment, Wicked for Good. Given the time taken in the first film, I wondered how director Jon Chu and the rest of the creatives would revisit Wicked's somewhat problematic second act. Now, having seen the film, I'll share my thoughts here. What works, what definitely doesn't, and why you probably should still take a chance and see this movie. And be warned, there will be major spoilers discussed. Before we get started, if you're new to Staged Right and want to see more content like this, make sure to like this video and subscribe today. Also, I'm very happy to share that this video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Now, I'm always looking to expand my viewing options at home with a new movie or series, and Surfshark has been a huge help. Whether I'm browsing to see what's on Netflix or Amazon Prime in another country, or if you're a history theater buff like me and wanted to watch the new Ken Burns documentary on PBS, featuring Broadway talents like Jonathan Groff, Lindsay Mendez, and Mandy Patinkin, all I had to do was find an available server in the States, and suddenly I have access to this exciting new documentary from the comfort of my living room. And I don't have to worry about malware or third parties collecting my personal information. Surfshark encrypts all of your data, helping to secure your personal information when you use free public Wi-Fi, which can be a goldmine for hackers. And its clean web feature blocks ads on all websites or apps that you visit. Whether I'm doing research for the channel or just want to unwind at the end of the day with my partner, this has been an invaluable and safe tool in expanding my viewing options online. Try Surfshark out yourself today. Go to surfshark.com/stagedright or use the code STAGEDRIGHT at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk to try it out.
A few moments later.
According to Winnie Holtzman, Wicked for Good is set 1 year after the events of the first film. Elphaba attempts to thwart the wizard's expanding reach in Oz while planning to expose his true nature. Meanwhile, Glinda has resigned herself as an admired and beloved spokesperson for the wizard's propaganda. Fiyero has inexplicably changed course and become captain of the Gale forces. The wizard, hidden and more isolated than ever, resigns his executive powers to Madame Warble, who is, let us say, a tad power-hungry in this movie. Leading up to the release of this film, I did my best to not watch or read too much regarding the new songs or any new material being added, so that I could just watch this film as freshly as possible. I know I had my concerns of how certain elements of the show's second act would be addressed on screen. In the stage show, Winnie Holtzman's book has to tie up loose ends from Act 1, as well as trying to link Wicked with the original Wizard of Oz story. Sometimes it's very clever, sometimes it's rather brisk and flip, and sometimes it's clumsy and awkward. And despite my best hopes, the film version doesn't really make any real improvements. While I found Wicked Part 1's drawn-out runtime a bit daunting, the space it afforded in fleshing out the story, and especially the friendship between Elphaba and Glinda, made it all feel worthwhile. Wicked for Good doesn't have the same effect, and the added material doesn't help in moving things along. More on this later. I really admired so much of what Jon Chu did in Part 1, so it's rather odd that his work in Part 2 feels less deft and sure of itself. Knowing the 2 films were shot all at once, this seems even more surprising. His tendency for showy camera work is sometimes an impediment to the subjects that he films. And I know we're talking about Wicked here, but I do think there are moments where less could have been more. Fortunately, the cast, for the most part, are able to stand above this. Cynthia Erivo is unwaveringly impressive as Elphaba, though admittedly not as showy as she is in Part 1. One of the things I admired about her performance in the first film was its slow burn, blooming from still and restrained to passionate and unbridled. In Part 2, her Elphaba is more settled, steely and grounded throughout, though she does get to let loose in the song No Good Deed, which stands out as one of the strongest, if not the strongest number in the film. Ariana Grande's Glinda is by far the showier part. While her comedy chops were highlighted in the first film, we get to see a more broken and vulnerable Glinda here. She does well, though if I'm being totally honest, I think some of the teary promotional appearances that have accompanied the film however genuine, might have dampened the emotional impact of the film. Nevertheless, Cynthia and Ariana's long-anticipated performance of the song For Good feels heartfelt and earned, though John Chu and cinematographer Alice Brooks seem to get nervous in the song, tracking the women in a circling motion that feels totally unnecessary. Sometimes a scene or a number is just staged awkwardly for the camera, with the actors looking stuck and remarkably stilted, and at times this falls on choreographer Christopher Scott. Admittedly, there isn't as much for him to work with in Part 2, but without a chorus of limb-popping dancers to utilize, he feels less comfortable staging a more quote-unquote traditional musical number like Thank Goodness, where the crowd scenes feel stiff and convoluted. And someone please tell me what these ladies in pink are doing at this press conference. It's quite remarkable how stranded and out of her element Michelle Yeoh can look at times in this movie, and I don't think it helped when they gave Madame Morrible even more to sing when you can tell how uncomfortable she is as a singer. I do think she's excellent in other respects, so I won't rush to use the word miscast, but I do think she needed a bit more help than she got. Jeff Goldblum's skittish and squirrely wizard from Part 1 is still really effective for me here, giving us some much-needed levity by the time he shows up. But I do think he needed to be shored up and reined in during Wonderful, which resorts to frenetic staging and lofty spectacle. And even if I could entertain the idea of Glinda's inclusion in the song, the mechanics of the scene, from Elphaba and Glinda's reunion on the balcony and going into the wizard's private chambers, feels awkward and clunky. And the absolutely bewildering unlimited reprise added to the middle of Wonderful stops the scene dead in its tracks. Working once again with writer Dana Fox, Winnie Holtzman at times makes brief but lovely additions to the plot. Like Part 1, the plight of the animals is given more time to be explored. Chistery and the monkeys, for instance, have a far more active role in the second half than in the show. I particularly appreciated the caravan of animals that are literally fleeing underground. Unlike the musical, the film's ending shows us the animals regaining stature in Oz, even a brief glimpse of Dr. Dillamond, though I do wish this had been expanded on further. Even at the end, it's not clear just how much, if at all, Glinda actually cares about Elphaba's advocacy for the animals. I know she has that speech at the end where the animals come out of hiding, but she doesn't address them directly. Without seeing her experience a real aha moment, maybe even a humble reunion with her old history professor, her feelings about the plight of the animals remain ambiguous. For all the additions to the plot that I appreciated, there are others that feel either ill-conceived or totally unnecessary. As much as I like the idea of the baby Galinda flashbacks, especially in conjunction and contrast with Elfies from Part 1, the sequence doesn't have the payoff that it's aiming for. While promoting the film, actress Marissa Bodie has shared some valuable insights on the character of Nessa Rose, addressing how the show was first conceived in 2003, and the subsequent mixed reaction from the disabled community. The screenplay attempts to address this with the spell cast in the governor's mansion scene, but just like Baby Galinda, I think I like the idea of this more than what ultimately ends up on the screen. All I can say is thank God for Jonathan Bailey as Fiyero, who injects some much-needed charm, gravitas, and humanity into an otherwise very silly part. I actually think the memory of his scenes with Cynthia in Part 1 helped to make their flighty romance in Part 2 play out much better than it does in the show, and their duet in As Long As You're Mine is the sensual highlight of this film. Paul Tazwell and Nathan Crawley return in Part 2, with some excellent designs in costume and setting respectively, though their world-building, Academy Award-winning work in Part 1 is very hard to top. Jeff Edmajian's new orchestrations on these familiar songs are a treat to hear, and John Powell's incidental music faithfully complement Stephen Schwartz's score. As for the new songs written for the movie, well, they're fine. Not great, just fine. The song No Place Like Home, for instance, is a rousing anthem that feels weirdly out of place this early in the film, and would probably play best as a standalone piece in concert. Ariana Grande's voice is gorgeous in The Girl in the Bubble, though John Chu's camera seems to be the real star of that sequence. And if we are going to justify the song's inclusion, which drags the pace of the movie even further, I'd say the song would have landed better after the scene in Morrible's office than where it is now. Were the songs added for the plot or as a ploy for Oscar nominations? I don't really know. Personally, I don't really have any stock in making Oscar predictions, but if I did, I would hedge my bets on any of the absolute bangers in K-pop Demon Hunters than either of the new songs written for Part 2 of Wicked, sorry. While writing this review, I was reminded of my own words in last year's video while praising John Chu, that he didn't try to make Wicked anything but what it was, quirks and all. In that respect, that's exactly what he did with Wicked for Good. Do I still wish there had been, let's say, a more elegant approach of addressing these problems? Absolutely. And with the whole now in mind, the decision of splitting the musical into 2 parts, a decision I had originally concluded was a smart choice, seems more questionable than it did before. And just to be clear, I didn't leave hating Wicked for Good, nor do I think it even registers as one of the worst movie musicals ever made. I was just a bit disappointed. And maybe my disappointment stems from my own expectations that all the problems from the second half would be addressed. And listen, I know I criticized a lot of elements of this film and what I thought didn't work, but I know there are people who are just enjoying the experience of going to this movie. Friends are getting together, dressing up in pink and green, and making an event out of it all. At my screening, there were hoots and cheers after songs and a notable amount of sniffling during For Good. Life is tough enough, and I can hardly begrudge people going out and having a good time. So go see Wicked for Good, and enjoy yourselves. And afterward, you can go to the bar with your friends and talk about what you really thought of the movie. These are of course just my opinions, and I'd like to hear what you thought of the new Wicked movie. What scene or song was your favorite? Did you get enough of Bowen Yang and Bronwyn James? And what do you think of Elphaba's chunky knit sex cardigan? Let me know in the comments. Once again, a huge thank you to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring this video. Go to surfshark.com/stagedright or use the code STAGEDRIGHT at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, maybe reviews of other movie musicals, let me know in the comments, while also hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. Finally, if you want to support Staged Right, you can make a one-time donation via Ko-fi for as much or as little as you like, or you can support the channel monthly for as little as $5 a month. You can find links in the description. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more.